Blog Talk Radio.
The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. Sit back, relax, and listen to tonight's show. Let's join our host, Ted Odorico, as he introduces tonight's special guest.
All right, good evening, everybody, and once again, welcome to Golf Talk Live. I am your host, Ted Odorico, and always excited to do these shows. I get an opportunity to have some great guests and talk about something that obviously I'm very passionate about, and obviously my guests are very passionate about, and that is the game itself. And tonight I've got a very special guest. I'm going to introduce her in just a moment. She was actually on the Tuesday show, the Women of Golf show, with my good friend and co-host, LPGA professional Cindy Miller. So you kind of got your whistles wet, if you will, a little bit about what she does. Obviously, most of you in the golf business know who she is, and I'll tell you in just a moment. But tonight we're going to get into a little bit more in-depth about what she does and what she's passionate about in golf. But let me just a couple of quick announcements. First and foremost, I want to send a heartfelt and sincere speedy recovery to Tiger Woods. Obviously, we've all been very disheartened with the news of him being in an accident earlier this week. And obviously, he's now recovering from surgery. And who knows what the future is going to hold as far as his ability to play. But right now, obviously, we want to wish him a speedy recovery and obviously all of our best to his family as well. On a side note, this is going to be the last sort of prelude, if you will, to the full regular season of Golf Talk Live beginning next week, which is March the 4th. Hard to believe we're going to be in March. We'll be going to the full schedule, the full 2-hour schedule, beginning with, of course, welcoming back our very first Coach's Corner panel of the 2021 season. So they'll be starting things off at 6 p.m. Central or 7 Eastern for those of you on the East Coast. And then, obviously, on the second half, I will have my featured guest as I'm doing here tonight. So hope you'll tune in. It's going to be a great show. I'm really, really excited to get the panel on next week to have some great discussions, as we always do, and then we'll continue on with our full season. All right, as I mentioned, my very special guest this evening joined Cindy and I earlier this week on Tuesday on the Women of Golf. And, of course, I'm talking about Linda Hartough. She is a world-renowned golf landscape artist. Her work has been displayed in the permanent collections of such legendary clubs as Augusta National, Laurel Valley, Pinehurst, and Pine Valley, in the personal collections of such notables as Jack Nicklaus, Ray Floyd, and Reese Jones. And she is also, in 2017, was an inductee into the Low Country Golf Hall of Fame and has been honored by the Golf Digest Lifetime Achievement Award. So please welcome to Golf Talk Live my very special guest this evening, Linda Hartough. Good evening, Linda. Welcome.
Well, good evening to you, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Well, I wanted to save. I know we were here for an hour, but I wanted to save. I could have read out more, but you've got so many great accolades. I was afraid I'd use up too much of our time. We've got a lot to get to tonight, but I'll sneak some of it in as we go along. So let me just do this so we can kind of explain to the listeners a little bit about your background of how you got to do what you're doing now. What prompted you to sort of wake up one day and say, you know what, this is something that I really want to do. I enjoy art. I enjoy painting, and I really love golf, so I'm going to kind of do that too. So sort of just walk us through a little bit what your mindset was back when you first started out.
Well, it wasn't really a matter of my deciding that I really loved golf to paint golf. It was more a matter of Augusta National asking me to paint the golf course. And that got me interested right away, obviously. Though I had been around golf all my life. My father was an avid golfer, but it was kind of a side thing, for me. But when Augusta invited me to paint the 13th hole, it certainly opened up a whole new avenue for me to consider.
And from there, obviously, many other doors opened up,
Yeah.
as you talked about on Tuesday, and we'll talk about a little bit of that as well.
Okay.
But one thing I do want to get you to sort of, I guess, repeat a little bit is something I found really, really interesting because as we talked about on Tuesday, one of the things that most people, when they think of, painting or artists and that, it's, well, we just sort of put the canvas down and we go to it. But there's a lot more involved, at least from your perspective. So kind of walk us through a little bit of when you receive sort of an invite to do something like that from Augusta National. What's the process that you go through before the first paintbrush even hits the canvas?
Well, it's quite long before I actually start painting. But first of all, it's to go to the course and kind of just get the feeling of what that course is about. What's a characteristic? Of course, some courses have obviously a very famous hole, so it's real easy. But other courses, you have to sort of find that hole that kind of gives you a sense of where you are or the character of that particular course. And that could take a while sometimes to find that. And then I have to find the lighting I like. The lighting is one of the most important elements in the painting. And I have to find the lighting that really shows that particular hole off or that scene. And that may take quite a bit of time too. I usually look at the hole at dawn and dusk, late afternoon, sometimes even in the middle of the day, depending on the elevations. It just all depends. You kind of have to just live with the course for a while. So I may spend up to a week, or I may go back again and again and again. Fortunately, I live fairly close to Augusta, so it's easy for me to run up there and, see it. But other courses, I try to calculate what the best time of year to go, that shows off the course the best. And sometimes it isn't good, and I'll come back another time.
Now, I know you mentioned the other day that obviously you take a number of different photographs from different angles and things like that to help, create that visualization. And then you sort of piece it together. You in your mind, you kind of say, okay, I like this angle here, and I think this is going to capture. And as you said, it can take quite a while sometimes to get that vision.
I have to study all those pictures for quite a long time before I can kind of piece together all the different elements that I want to express in that painting. Like if I were taking pictures of it from lighting to see how the green is lit at different times, it can change. So I'll pick the best time where it looks the best and try to make sure that particular area that I want to show is going to have the best lighting. And that's, kind of tricky. But it, within reason, within a fairly short period of time, you can get a lot of difference on how the light is hitting the fairway or the green or whatever it is. But the most important thing, I think, is I make it so that you can see that hole. You can see how to play it. You can see all the strategic parts of it and really visualize it.
Yeah, you do such a wonderful job. I mean, we've visited your site a number of times in preparation for the show, and actually even during the show on Tuesday, and that's Hartough, and it's spelled HARTOUGH.com. please wait until after the end of this broadcast for you to go there, because I want you to listen to everything from Linda first. But I strongly encourage you to go. Literally, the work that she has put together is simply breathtaking. It's just amazing, the detail. I mean, I've never seen. I've seen photographs that don't do what you've done justice. I mean, it's just amazing the detail that you're able to get, and I think that's why obviously so many people are in awe of what you do. And I also mentioned a few names. You know, Jack Nicklaus comes to mind. Assuming that there's no issues in sharing any information, what were some of the things that he commissioned you to do? And obviously, if you can't be specific, that's fine. We get it. But was it some specific holes that he had you do, or were there some other things that he wanted you to do for his collection?
It was actually part of ABC TV special that they had with Jack Nicklaus, to the most dramatic holes in golf. And these were his picks, and his favorite holes and the most significant ones in his career. And so I did them, and he purchased all of them, so that was good. But they were also, we did a second follow-up show, and that included a few more, like a couple from Muirfield and Wingfoot and places like that. But these were all significant holes in his career, basically. The 11th at Augusta, places like that. So.
Now, you also did some work for Rhys Jones. Was it a similar scenario there, where he had some favorite holes that he just wanted to capture? What was the story behind that?
Well, this was in the early 90s, I guess, or late 80s. He had designed a course actually near me on Daufuskie Island, and it won a lot of awards. So I did one of that for him, and then also he was the U.S. Open, golf course redesigner, and he did Congressional. And he also purchased that work that I did for the U.S. Open, the first one at Congressional. That was in 96, I guess. Oh, no, 97.
Wow.
Yeah, for the U.S. Open in 97. So, and he bought a lot of prints.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's in the business of designing golf courses, so obviously he has an eye for holes as well. And what better way to capture them?
Yeah, a lot of these
Go ahead.
were U.S. Open courses, that he had worked on. So yeah, and his father too. As far as Hazeltine, his father actually purchased Hazeltine from me that I did in 92, 91. That was 1991.
Now, approximately, I mean, you may have an exact number, but approximately how many paintings do you estimate that you've done?
Oh, gosh. I wish I had really added them all up. But I have to say it's well over 100. Not all of them have been in print, but most of them are in print. Yeah, I know I've done at least 26 at Augusta alone. Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
and the reason why I ask, because what I'd like for you to do is to put in perspective. Now, obviously, each hole is going to be different. Some it's a little bit less time, some it's more. But you mentioned the other day kind of the time frame from start to finish, and we're not talking a month, or in many cases maybe even 2 months. It can be quite a bit longer from your preparation time, getting the information gathered but give us a general idea of kind of the time frame and the timeline it takes for you to put just one of these paintings together.
Yeah, well, I usually only do about 2 or 3 paintings a year max, and that would be, of course, the time to go to the course, photograph it, and then back in the studio, I have to kind of digest all those pictures and figure out what I want to portray and how I want to portray it, and that takes sometimes quite a while because I have to visualize the painting completely done before I can even start. And that can take a while. And then actually painting it can take a while, from 3 to 6 months, depending on how big it is. And then after that, you have the printing process, which is it has to go and be digitally captured. You have to proof prints if there's additions to sign, and fulfillment and merchandising. So yeah, one painting can be 4 or 5 months with all those different elements.
So, just putting things in perspective.
Because I'm publisher, I'm artist. Yeah, I'm artist and publisher and merchandiser. I do all of the facets of that.
Yeah, so you definitely wear many hats. The reason why I asked and why I wanted to get a general idea of, approximately how many you think you've done, even with Augusta National, you said you mentioned 26. If each painting on average is taking you, say, 3 to 4 months, that's a long time just to do Augusta National. And you've done so many others. You've done the U.S. Open venues and British Open venues.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, you've done a lot. You've been doing this for a while, and it's no wonder that you've become very, very proficient. And I want to acknowledge, I mentioned it earlier, but I would like you to maybe talk about that because, and I know some people, really don't care so much about accolades in the sense that, but I think it's something worth mentioning. Golf Digest, as an example, recognized you with the Lifetime Achievement Award, as well as you were inducted to the Low Country Golf Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
when those were presented to you, I was going to say, let's start with that one. Let's talk with the Low Country Golf Hall of Fame. What went through your mind when you first heard about that was going to happen, and then when it actually happened?
Well, it's quite an honor because I guess golf art has always been considered sort of on the fringe of the game, not really a core part of it, even though it does the job of being a visual record of these courses and players and everything, every aspect of the game, but it's sort of looked on as kind of fringe. So to be included in that, where the players and the golf course architects are included in these Hall of Fames, was a huge honor to me, because I've always kind of felt a little bit outside of the mainstream of golf, even though that's my whole life. But
Well, I can honestly say, Linda, from viewing, obviously I have not seen one in person, but just seeing the digital reproductions of what you've done, I would say you've won the Masters. I mean, literally, you have, and the U.S. Open and the British Open, and every other tournament imaginable. I mean, and I can't. And again, I want the folks after the show to go and take a look at your website, because it's just amazing. I've seen some very good quality paintings before, but your body of work is quite stunning, and especially as a golf lover myself, to be able to see the beauty that you've captured in these images is just amazing. So I appreciate those are awards. Yeah, those are awards that were very well earned. What was some of the holes? I want to talk for a little bit more about the art and so forth, and then we're going to shift gears after a very short break in just a few moments, and then we're going to talk about the Academy of Golf Art, which you are a founding trustee of the Academy. But I want to ask you just to talk a little bit about some of your best work, and what, in your own opinion, obviously I know you're proud of everything you've done, but what particular paintings do you feel that you really, really love the most? What are your favorites, in other words?
Oh boy, that's hard.
I know
to
they all
pinpoint,
are.
because
I know they're all your favorites, but
Yeah, the landscape is so different, like Augusta is so different from like St. Andrews. You can't even hardly compare them in one way. But I guess I favor really the Scottish and Irish courses because they combine the just natural wild landscape with these beautiful contours and these gorgeous greens. So some of those are my favorite, I think. I mean, I really like the Carnoustie and gosh, the one I did one for Royal Dornoch. Oh God, what a place! I mean, they're just incredible places. And Pebble Beach, and it goes on and on.
Do you think the more challenging, and I think I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Do you think the more challenging the course, as you just presented here, is more rewarding for you? And that's not to take away, from Augusta or any of the others. I mean, they're all beautiful courses and that. But as you said, you really appreciate the some of the European style courses because of the natural beauty. Do you think that you savor those, maybe a little bit more because of partially the challenge of getting and capturing that imagery, and also just that they're different? They're different than what we typically see over here in the U.S.
And fortunately, it's nice to paint different kinds of landscape. If you had to paint one course your whole career, we get old. Yeah. But just seeing all the characters of all these different courses is really exciting to try to capture that. And some of them are more dramatic than others, obviously, but even Pinehurst, I mean, when I first looked at Pinehurst, I was like, oh boy, it was all green, all pine trees, no water, So it was a real challenge to try to find something that was really exciting to do. But I really loved those holes I painted. You just have to look.
Right. Those particular courses that you're referring to, at a first glance seem very simplistic because there isn't a lot of hazards, the same as you see in many other, or big bodies of water and things like that. Right. They are in their own right very picturesque as well. And to be able to capture the natural look and landscape of that, I'm sure was not easy.
No.
Because again,
it was so much about the lighting that made the difference. Just finding that right light, and then it becomes exciting once that light really shows it off. It's just interesting how you find these scenes, or you find this light that just shows that whole scene up so beautifully and makes it exciting to paint. I mean, I'm going to spend 3-4 months with it, so I better love it.
Now, once you get the creative side of it prepared, and now you're ready to actually get down to work and paint the various portraits, is it instant? I mean, is it, I've got everything together. Do you jump right on it, kind of the next day, or do you take a couple of days to kind of absorb everything in a little bit more, or do you, no, I better get on it right now while I've still got the imagery in my mind? What's the process there?
It takes quite a while to put all those pieces together in my head and figure out what it's going to look like. I have to do that before I start. And once I start, I already know where everything is going, and then it's just a matter of doing it. Which sounds simplistic.
What's the hardest part? What's the hard? No, I think that's very well put. What's the hardest part, do you think? I mean, obviously you said capturing the lighting and getting things just right, but is it the backgrounds? Is it the sky? I mean, painting the flag and that sort of thing seems. I mean, I'm not certainly an expert painter, but I would think that would be a little bit easier to capture that, and even the green.
Well, the hardest part is the middle third.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't make sense, but the middle third is where all the time is. The sky, it goes fairly quickly, and then the middle third is where all the detail mostly occurs. And I work from, kind of from left to right, basically, just going through it. If you look on the website, there is some paintings in progress where you can see it from start to finish. And I don't really paint like you're supposed to either. So I paint what's called alla prima, meaning the paint is wet totally. And because it's so detailed, I'll pick one area at a time and almost complete that one area before I move to the next. So it's really kind of interesting. And I start with the sky, obviously, the furthest thing away, and work in the tree lines, and whatever's in that sky goes in while it's wet. And then I'll work sections, according to how many hours I have or how long it takes for the paint to dry, which is an issue. I don't like the paint to dry, but it does. So I have to calculate, how much I can get done while that paint stays wet.
Well, that's what I was just about to say, because I remember you mentioned something the other day that you like to finish an area, as you said, while the paint is still wet, because once it's dry, then you run into some issues and things like that, or it becomes more difficult, I guess, or challenging. That's very interesting. And the reason why I wanted to, give you an opportunity to talk about in more detail than just, hey, I do these, beautiful paintings and so on and so forth, is because I want people to really appreciate the work that goes into it. It's not just having, the talent of the painting itself, but it's actually the sort of the mental process that leads up to, getting the paint on the canvas, so to speak. One more thing I want to do before we take a short break, and that is, you've mentioned about, then getting it into a digital format for print. You have a gentleman that you've been working with for a little while. Maybe you can talk about that relationship in a brief moment, about the process, what happens there, and how he's been able to help you really capture that into print.
Yes. Okay. You want me to start right now, or?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yep. I started doing prints in 1984 with Augusta, and so I've seen every form of printing, I think, out there as far as commercial printing or fine art printing. And I went to several different printers after finding that the Augusta prints were really, the first ones I did were kind of not really great quality, shall we say. And I wanted to have a fine art print all the way through. So I upgraded to some fine art presses, and after working through 3 different ones, I finally ended up with the Lithochrome Company in Columbus, Georgia. And that's where I met my present technical guy, Tracy. And he, as well as I, had been through all the different forms of printing out there. So we had this background together, and we moved into the digital world together. And he's just really good. I mean, I have never found anybody that can do a digital capture like him, because my paintings have a lot of texture. I use a lot of paint. And he knows just how to light it so that you see the texture, but the what they call specular highlights, where the light will make a glare like on the texture part, he knows how to light it so that isn't a distraction, because that can just ruin the whole image, really. And so it's been a really great partnership all these years, since 94. I've been working with him since 1994. So, yeah.
Well, and as I said the other day, I think when you find somebody that complements what it is that you do in an area that you want to develop in, you have to stick with it. And I think, obviously, as you said, you guys have sort of partnered up in this. on that aspect for a number of years now, and if it works, then keep doing it. I want to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the Academy of Golf Art. My very special guest, Linda Hartough, is joining me, and we're going to come back here in just a moment after this quick message about golf tips.
The following ad is sponsored by Golf Tips Magazine.
Are you tired of being short off the tee? And what about those 3 putts? Forget about it. It's time you got serious about your game. Golf Tips, the most in-depth magazine in the industry. For over 30 years, Golf Tips has delivered expert content such as the latest golf instruction from America's top pros, simple to follow practice and gain improvement drills, fitness and mental game tips, equipment, training aids, accessory and apparel reviews, golf destinations and travel tips for every budget, and so much more. Don't miss a single issue. Go to golftipsmag.com and subscribe today.
All right. I'm joined this evening by my very special guest, world-renowned golf landscape painter and artist, Linda Hartough. We've been talking in the first half of the segment about a little bit about her background and some of the different pieces of art that she's worked on and just her journey, if you will. And now we're going to talk about something else that she's been involved with. In fact, she was a founding trustee, and that is the Academy of Golf Art. So, Linda, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Why did you want to develop that, and what is its overall mission? Let's start there.
Well, for one thing, being a fine artist, I came from the Art Institute of Chicago, and when I switched to golf art, it was like I disappeared, basically, from the art world, because the art world really didn't acknowledge golf art as a viable genre. So that was part of the purpose, was just to attract, fine artists to create images of golf and connect with people that wanted to collect fine art with golf themes. So early in the 2000s, Golf Digest put on these art shows at Pinehurst, and for the first time, a lot of us had met together for these shows, and we got together and we decided we really needed to make an organization, to help do some of these things that we wanted to do, like have good fine art shows of golf. And there was just no organization that was doing that, and there was no way to have that sort of thing. So that's basically why we formed the Academy.
And you mentioned that obviously you wanted to, get it out there, not just the art itself, but the awareness and create an awareness that this is something viable to contribute to golf in general.
Right.
There's some other, besides yourself, some other artists involved. Are they all landscape artists, or they do other areas of
some are portraits and
golf
figurative,
as well.
And anything to do with the subject of golf. Basically, it could be still life, it could be anything, abstract. Basically, we were trying to provide a platform for fine artists to actually do golf art, because there's an awful lot of artists out there that like golf, but they have no place to show or exhibit, because they're what they do normally maybe not is golf 100%. Like, there aren't many of us that do nothing but golf art.
Right.
A lot of people just would like to do it, but they don't have a place to show it or any way to connect to the people that might want to buy it or exhibit it.
Right.
So that was
and
kind of that was the purpose.
Right.
And also, it was just to make the art world a little more aware, because I think, well, I know when I first started back, in the 80s, I went to a PGA show in 1988. That was my first one I went to. And there was no art there. There was very little, and what was there was poor quality, terribly printed. It's what I would call souvenir art, very cheap.
Right.
And I thought, wow, I just thought, wow, what an opportunity that nobody is doing this. So that was my bright idea to get into it and try to do that. I just didn't realize at the time that I was going to have to do it all. I was going to have to publish. I was going to have to sell. I was going to have to develop markets, because there was none of that then. It just wasn't there.
Well, as the old saying goes, we all need a pioneer to get the movement going, if you will. So we thank you for that. But no, you're exactly right in your analogy here. Is that again, obviously people are well aware of the arts and a lot of other genres within the arts now. But obviously, again, I'm sure in the earlier days that golf was not really sort of appreciated to the same degree. But obviously you guys were persistent and spreading the word and getting information. And obviously you have, as you said, a number of artists that are involved. And you're actually very open. The AGA, which we'll call it for short, but that's the Academy of Golf Art, are accepting new artist members. So if somebody that's out there that wants to contribute, wants to be a part of this, what do they need to do? What's the process? How do they go about doing that?
Just going to the website and making a contact, basically, and then we get back to them. It's academyofgolfart.org or .com, either one. And they can just go and read. There's contact numbers there, so they can start. That's usually how we get contacted. We don't go out and solicit, much.
Right.
If they're interested, then great. Unfortunately, with today's COVID and everything else, it's there's just not much going on. We've had shows at museums even, but we just don't have anything scheduled right now. So.
Well, I know, and I want to get you to talk a little bit about this. Right, exactly, and we'll touch on that too. In 2018, you had a very successful exhibition at the Morris Museum of Art in Augusta, Georgia, during the 2018 Masters, and that. Talk a little bit about that. What took place? What was this a number of exhibitors that were there, or was it just yourself and maybe one or two others?
Well, it was just the Academy member show. So each member submitted several pieces, and the Morris Museum mounted the show, and it was up for several months. So it was really, really very nice. I've had shows there as well, and they've done quite a lot to try to further golf art too. And I'm good friends with the director there now because I've been badgering him for years. Like, here you are in Augusta. Yeah. Hello. You need to do something with golf.
Yeah, it's always nice to make friends with the director of the museum.
Right.
To get that. Now, this took place, just help me to understand. So this took place beginning at the Masters, then obviously it went on, because you said it went on for a little bit. Did it start at the beginning of the Masters and then carry on for a couple of months or what have you, or did it start much before the Masters or after? How did it work?
It was I think a few weeks before the Masters, so it was just make sure it was up during the Masters for people that were in Augusta. So, because a lot of people, all these people in Augusta, they can't be at the course all the time, so they're looking for things to do, and the Morris Museum was advertising this show, so it really brought a lot of people in. And normally during
Now,
the Masters, the museum is dead quiet, so they were thrilled.
Now, was this something that you just did in 2018, and have you spoken to now your friend, the director, about doing maybe another show, or have you done other shows as well at the same?
We have a lot of plans,
Is it
but they all require money.
Right, of course. But this is something that you wanted moving forward.
Yeah, the Morris Museum is planning a big expansion too, which would sort of give the Academy a home if they could mount their expansion. But right now, because of COVID and all these other things, it's just they've had to set that back time-wise. It's just hard to go out and fundraise when you can't even have people together.
Yeah, it's been very challenging, of course, for a lot of not just businesses but organizations such as yourself. And I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but obviously the Academy of Golf Art is a nonprofit, so you rely on funding and things like that to be able to do a lot of these things. I also see here too, and I wanted to get your thoughts here. For this year, you had planned an AGA exhibition at the 2021 National Meeting of the Golf Heritage Society. Is that still hoping to happen, or when is that supposed to be scheduled?
It's supposed to be late September. Yeah,
okay.
But it's just up in the air right now. They're hoping to have it. It got canceled last year. We were all supposed to go there. But that's what happened then. So they're trying to reschedule that, but again, nobody really knows what it's gonna be like then, as far as people getting together at a large event. It's just totally up in the air.
Yeah, it makes for a lot of challenges. I know with the, for example, the tournament events have struggled with the same thing. I mean, last year, they had no fans, very, very limited, if any, media. I know with the shows, we've done a lot of, we've had the pleasure of interviewing some winners from various tournaments on the Symetra Tour. And last year it was very sketchy because part of their season was just, not happening. So trust me when I say I appreciate where you're coming from. It can be very, very challenging. So moving forward, all things being equal, moving forward, what is assuming that we come out of this sooner than later, what's sort of the agenda, if you will, of the Academy moving forward? What do you want to see happen? How do you want it to grow? And what other areas, if any, are you planning on expanding it?
Well, my vision is, with the help of the Morris Museum or some sponsoring body, is to really develop it into a either annual or semi-annual juried show that would be open to whoever wanted to jury in. And that it would grow into an event, sort of like Cowboy Artists. Do you know what that is? Yeah, that's a huge event. And so that's my ultimate vision of it, plus having a home gallery where you had shows of different artists or prints for sale or whatever, just specializing in the genre.
What about at some of, beginning at some of the larger events, like the majors as an example? Is that something, I mean, obviously, you did it around the time of the Masters back in 2018, but is that something that, you are sort of considering or envisioning as well at, maybe future U.S. Opens, future, Open Championships, so on and so forth, having that tagged on to large events like that initially, and then maybe expanding beyond that? Is that something that you have discussed and thought about doing? Because I think that would be great.
About it.
Because
but the problem with that is the U.S. Open's at a different course every year. And I
Right.
know myself, having gone to 25 of them, that people generally don't go to another venue during those big tournaments. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
like they're all concentrated on that course. So if it isn't on course, it's likely not to attract a whole lot of attention.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was getting at is what about on course? Like if you had, because obviously they have corporate tent. I mean, and again, we're going to leave COVID to the side for a second because we understand the challenges right now. But at some point, in the near future, we hope that things are going to get back to somewhat of a normalcy. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about so much an off-site. I'm talking about on course. I mean, because I would think, to be honest, that would be from again, whether it be a U.S. Open or an Open or other major event, the PGA Championship, to have art displayed on course, I think would be very, very. I mean, they've got corporate tents and things. I think that would be something that
would require very big sponsorship.
Well,
and that's what we don't have.
Listen, the golfing world has deep pockets, I'm sure, and with the PGA Tour and that, they can break the bank a little bit. But no, I understand what you're talking about, and yeah, it's everything. I mean, everything takes money in that. But I look at it this way. I think, when you go to a golf course, obviously you want to see the tournament. But one of the interesting things, while you're walking around and from hole to hole, and you want to take a break, and sometimes it's nice to have something to do, and not everybody, not everybody gets invited. Yeah, gets invited into the corporate tent. So, I think that would be a great addition. Well, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, the corporate bringing their clients now, but the average Joe public, would be interested in seeing that. So I think that's something that
I think you're absolutely right. And I have talked to the USGA about that in the past, and they like the idea, but they know how much it would cost. And that's the problem.
I think that I think that there's ways to, just to sort of motivate some of the larger governing bodies, and that we'll have to work on them. But so
and that's the nice thing about Augusta is the fact that once a year, everybody in golf is going to be in one spot, and they do move around the city. It isn't like there's many receptions and all kinds of things go on in Augusta that don't go on at other tournaments, mainly because it's a different venue every year. But when it's the same place every year, it becomes a tradition, all these different events that go on around the tournament.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the only tournament I've been to that has that.
Yeah, and again, they have certainly an advantage with the Masters because it is held at the same venue every year, unlike the U.S. Open and the Open Championship and even the PGA. So, yeah, logistically, it's a different beast, if you will. But, I look at it this way. I think, there's a lot of different things, and it's an ever-changing world. And I think, from a golf perspective, you always have to find ways of opening people's eyes into things. It's just like you said, back, several years ago when you started the academy, it was something that was really not really thought a lot about in the general public, but you and the rest of the group at the academy have over the last, couple of decades or so have sort of opened some eyes as to, hey, what's really going on. And obviously you've caught the attention of some big players, Nicholas to be one, and Ray Floyd, and I'm sure others as well. So obviously they recognize the beauty of what you're doing. So I think it's just a matter of nudging a few more elbows and just saying this is something I think we need to, to reflect on the history of the game and
I'm not
bring it to.
Really good at that sort of thing, but I do the best I can with the people that I know, but I'm not like one that goes running around to everybody and giving them that's just not me. I have the ideas, but someone else needs to do all that, not me. I got enough to do.
Yeah, You need to, yeah, exactly. You need a good onboard salesman to get out there and start doing it. I agree. Well, Linda, it's very interesting your story because, as I said in the beginning, obviously you wear many hats, as it were, but to be able to go through the creative process and the preparation needed to do this takes a lot. It's not just the actual raw talent of producing the finished product, but it's what goes into it, and that's not something there's a lot of artists out there who, as I said, throw the canvas up and they paint, and it's certainly a beautiful rendition at the end of their doing, but there's a lot of them don't do the same preparation and and to the extent that you do, and obviously it shows in the body of work. So I kudos to you for putting that much effort into doing that, and it shows, as I said, in the finished product. So I think it's great.
It's just the way I work, though, with any painting, and always have, really. but I just brought all that to golf, basically.
When did you know? Just to go back to the art for a second, when did you know? Not so much the golf, but just when did it become apparent to you that you had a talent for this?
I'd say probably when I was about 6. I was always drawing and painting and doing things, and I guess I became aware that not everybody did that when I was about 6, and it suddenly realized that I was an artist, and that's what I did. So that was pretty much the way my whole life has gone since then. All decisions were made around that realization from then on, and it really guided my whole life.
If you had the ear of a younger person who maybe has some talent, regardless of level, what advice would you give them based on what you know today of yourself and what it took to get to where you are? What would you advise them to do besides just pursuing whatever their dream?
They have to work really hard and produce a lot of work. You just have to produce work and have some kind of vision about maybe where you want to be or what you want to do. I don't know. I think it's just hard work. I mean, I know that's not what most people want to hear, but it's basically what it is. The more hours you spend at it, the better you get.
Do you think, and I'm sure you would attest to this, some people have a very natural talent, but maybe it needs a little bit refined. Do you recommend that somebody to kind of just go with their natural talent, or should they get a little bit more, and I hate to use the word training, but maybe go to an art school or something, or not? Is that something that you would strongly recommend if it's within their wheelhouse to do that, or just expand on their natural talents?
I think so. I mean, I went to 3 different schools, so and even when I was in grade school and high school, there were a lot of other programs that were available, museums, schools. There's just so much out there that you have to look for it, kind of, or be guided by where you are. Like if you're in school, just like grade school or whatever, your teachers should know how to encourage you, really. I mean, I was, certainly, when I grew up. They helped a lot and encouraged. But I did go to art school. I went to university. I went to a summer school, Skowhegan School of Painting and Drawing, and those were wonderful experiences. And then I went to the Art Institute of Chicago and stayed there in Chicago after I graduated and just worked, learned how to paint things that people wanted to buy, basically. I wanted to make a living from it. I mean, I was determined I wasn't going to be doing something else. I was going to be painting one way or the other. And I did. I painted landscapes and all kinds of scenes and sold them at the art fairs and made a good living doing that. And yeah,
Well,
it's just hard work.
Well, I'm a firm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm a firm believer. I think that when you are passionate about something, it really doesn't feel like work. And I know that's kind of a cliche that you hear people say, but it's true. I think when you really love something and you're passionate about them, about that particular thing, you tend to be willing to put, your whole soul, if you will, into doing that. And it's very apparent, Linda, in your work that you've done just that. And I'm going to, just before I let you go, I'm going to let everybody know now that the show is coming to a close here, where they can go to not only check out your artwork, but if they want to learn more about the Academy as well. So here's the websites. If you want to check out Linda's work, is go to Hartough, and it's HARTOUGH.com. And you can see not only some of her finished work, but in progress work as well. You can see that on there to kind of gauge at how the process works. So again, go to HARTOUGH. That's Hartough, is how it's pronounced, .com. And then obviously if you want to get more information, whether you just want to kind of snoop around the site or whether you're an artist yourself and maybe want to get information about it, about the Academy, and want to reach out to somebody there to find out how to become involved with the Academy of Golf Art, go to theacademyofgolfart.org and check that out as well. Linda, I want to thank you very much for joining.
Also, I wanted to say that if you sign up for the newsletter on my website, we run a lot of different Guess the Winner contests or drawings on the different tournaments, which is kind of fun. Sometimes I give away limited edition prints or open edition, depending. But it really engages everybody to try to, give their picks and see if they win a print. So
I think that's a great idea.
You need to sign up for the newsletter.
Okay, well, go to Hartough.com. Again, it's HARTOUGH.com. And while you're snooping around, take a moment and sign up for the newsletter as well and get a chance to maybe get a limited print if you guess right. So I think that's a great idea. Well, Linda, thank you very much, doubly so, for joining Cindy and I. Tuesday, we had a great discussion then. We appreciate you giving of your time and then spending a little bit more time with me this evening here on Golf Talk Live. I hope you will come back again and we'll talk some more in a future show. And I want to wish you much continued success. And hopefully things will open up enough. And I might put a bug in a few people's ears at some of the events and in the golf world and say, hey, this is something we need to grapple onto. So I might be,
that would be great.
I might be that salesman you need. So I might put the word out there for you.
We could make you executive director. We could make you executive director of the Academy, and then you could really go for it.
I might take you up on that. We'll talk about that for sure. But Linda, thank you very much again for spending time with me tonight and on Tuesday as well. Cindy and I both enjoyed that. And again, much continued success. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.
All right.
And I look forward to you joining me again in a future show.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
You're very welcome, Linda. Bye-bye. All right. It was my very special guest, Linda Hartough. Go to Hartough.com to check out some of her body of work. There's just some incredible images of some of the paintings that she's done. Of course, that's in digital form on the site, but you'll get the gist of just how beautiful these portraits are. And then, of course, you want to visit the academyofgolfart.org, where she, of course, was one of the founding trustees of the Academy. And that's really where a lot of other artists as well share their body of work. So you might want to check that out as well. And maybe if you're an up-and-coming landscape artist or somebody that really appreciates the beauty of golf and you're want to display that may be an avenue for you. So go to academyofgolfart.org. All right, I want to thank everybody once again for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live. It's been a pleasure. I will be back next Thursday, March the 4th, with our full broadcast with Coach's Corner, starting things off at 6 p.m. Central, going on for an hour, and then at 7 p.m. Central, will be my special featured guest next week. So back to full season next week. God bless everybody. Stay safe. And thank you for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. Ted would like to thank this evening's special guest for joining him on the show. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. You can also listen to Golf Talk Live on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. Be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, send an email to Ted at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.